Hello and welcome to the Soul Sisters and Seekers podcast. My name is Aruna.
My name's Liz.
Gayathri.
Vidhya.
We are four friends who love discussing various topics related to spirituality. And this week's topic comes from Vidhya.
The question is, do you believe in free will? Do you believe that free will exists? Or do you think all our actions and choices are predetermined by external factors?
I think I look at it two ways, on a global scale and on a micro scale as a person. So on a global scale, there's 8 billion people on this planet. And when we incarnate here, depending on where we land, if we land in North Korea, right? And we're not in the ruling class, they have no free will. They have choices. They have very limited choices, and you have to do what you're told. Now, if you land here in Canada or in another liberal country, you can have more choices. But as a person as a whole, I think we have a plan before we get here to follow our plan via our karma. And then, but we have choices to make along the way.
I think, Liz, I think in terms of free will, I don't think we have the free will to even decide if we want to be born in North Korea or not, right?
Right.
So regardless of once we get here and have an incarnation and then how much choice is available to us, we don't even have a choice of, where we get to be born. So I think there is, in my opinion, there's no such thing as absolute free will, because I think we're born into certain families, into certain geographies. It's out of our control. So there is no free will as attached to this incarnation and this personality. So even your heart, you can't just say, I'm going to stop my heart from beating. I'm going to allow my heart to start beating. There's so many things that we think we have in our control and it's our will. We don't. I mean, all of a sudden you get a zit. You didn't will that to come, and you can't will that to go away. There's, certain medications and so on. But I'm just saying, so these are some samples of where we think we have so much control, but even small things like this, we don't have control. But at the same time, there are certain choices I think we can make. I was watching something by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, and he said it beautifully. And he said, we have what is destiny and what is free will. So I think that the idea of this topic is actually, do you believe in free will? It's like, if you don't believe in free will, then you believe in destiny, right? Predestined.
You believe in karma, right? If you don't
karma.
Believe in free will, yeah.
Yeah, destiny or fate.
So
he basically said, your height is your destiny, your weight is your free will.
That's a good one.
Isn't it? Because you can only grow as much as you're destined to grow, but you are welcome to grow widthwise, as for your free will, right? So I thought that was kind of funny.
I don't know where I land with this one. I think I saw somewhere a while ago, it said, even when we have a thought, we think we're thinking it. But the thought happens, and retroactively, we claim ownership of it. So even a thought just appears. We're not thinking it. So let's say, I'm hungry for dinner. I decide, okay, I want to have Italian food for dinner. Did I choose that?
And who is the I, right?
Who's the I? Who's the I? And did I choose that? Or did a desire appear out of nowhere to have Italian food, and then the fulfillment of it, walking to the store to get something or order something or make something, did all those appear? And then we say, I wanted Italian food. I made Italian food. I had Italian food for dinner. So to me, even down to the level of thought, I think there's no free will. Now, one caveat though, I think what we consider in sort of the South Asian culture as karma is in the general vernacular, what we consider these days as accumulated, this word used very loosely, trauma. So we act and react from places of trauma. Mostly we react from places of trauma. That's what we call karma in our culture. And so even simple reactions, we say we are choosing that, but in fact, it happens through us. It's experienced through us. So
I think a good analogy I saw on Aaron Abke is he talked about someone playing a video game. The person that's the avatar within the video game thinks that that person is choosing one path or the other and achieving certain goals and so on, jumping over hoops and this and that. But the person with the joystick knows that they're the ones that are actually playing the game, right? But the avatar believes that they're doing all the actions. And if you ask the avatar, you know, within and say that's our ego and we are the avatars, and a higher power or a higher self is actually living through us, and we're in the video game of life, and we are thinking and acting as if it's us going about doing everything that we're doing. In actuality, there's someone with a joystick, like our own, like a higher self that's not in this incarnation, in this physical body attached to this ego, you know, that's actually living through us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. He talks about, I think, two more examples, like a dreamer dreaming something. You think of the characters that come in your dream as real, but actually the person who is dreaming, he's the only one who can control it. But it almost happens in a way that you feel it's so real. And you try to live in that story for that moment. So I have similar thoughts like you guys. I used to think there is a lot of free will, maybe like some time ago, like few years ago, but now more into spirituality and non-dualism. You tend to believe everything is our source living through us. It's not us, or it's not an I feeling attached with this body or with this mind. It's beyond that. But then it also makes you question, how do we justify all our behaviors if we all think there is no free will, or there is limited free will with the choices that we make? Do we justify the way we behave, the way we act? And how about people who commit a crime? Like, do we even think that way? It's that person's karma or destiny which is making him or her do that action.
I think there's a danger in believing that everything is predestined, because then it kind of, there's this, I think, inactivity, or kind of maybe some, like, why do I have to do it? I'm just going to surrender. Everything is going to happen through me, regardless of whether I leave the house or not. So that might stop you from doing the things that you're supposed to do, if you just think everything is going to happen through me and I don't have to do anything. And that's not the case, right? You still have to put in the work. So there is that danger of that thinking. And that's why I think other swamis that I've, like Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and others that I have seen, they don't, maybe for that reason, they don't, they're not on the same, they don't use the same language that maybe Aaron Abke uses. And they say it's a combination, that there is free will, and then there are certain things that are per karma. And then there's free will in the choices we make and how we react. And there's free will, there has to be free will in order for us to, go on a spiritual path. So I've heard that as well. So that's why I think there might be a combination. But there are two schools of thought. I do agree with everything that Aaron Apke is saying, but at the same time, I think there is, you can kind of say, oh, it's happening through me. But at the same time, I have the opportunity to, if something happens to me, how do I react? Do I react, or do I respond, or do I react? And kind of taking a step back, looking at the situation and then going through a spiritual path. I think there are fine things. Again, it might be according to, what's coming through you, and it feels like, us having free will. But I
Mhm.
think that's why some of the people that you hear from, some of the yogis that you hear from, they have that language. I believe it's so that there's people that don't go into inaction and leave everything to just, a higher power and say, oh, okay, I'm not going to do anything. But
Mhm.
So just for discussion's sake, I agree with you, Aruna, that inaction part. So, but just for discussion's sake, is it your choice that you go into that inaction part? This is what we're talking about, right? Free
Mhm.
will.
Yeah.
Is it your choice? Or is it that your path is that you go through inaction, and in that inaction there's, some sort of growth or some sort of something that we are not aware of in the grand scheme of things, and then you come out of it. So I think this is where we as human beings tend to believe one thing when it's convenient for us, and then tend to, take the opposing view when it doesn't work to our benefit. But even going down to that, I love that example, by the way, so I'm not picking on it because I do like it. But how can you say that going into inaction is a choice?
it is a very hard thing to relinquish control. And I think maybe that's part of it too, because free will gives you control. It puts you in the driver's seat.
I agree. It gives you control because you could go in different ways. A person could do all wrong things and say, the source is acting through me. If he has the knowledge, the person is going to think it's not me, it's the, creator's wish. You could potentially, ruin everything in your life and others' life. So I have a sense that, believing in free will gives you that control over, okay, even though the ego attaches again, you think I can do this, I'm going to be different, right? I want to
It's the
see.
illusion of control.
It's the illusion
seeming
of
control.
Yes,
Control, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But then we have to ask ourselves, right? We're on the spiritual path. We all claim that we are on a spiritual path.
Mhm. Yeah.
Then why do we want to buy into that idea of illusion of control?
Now,
Right? Why?
did we choose to be on this path, or did this path find us? Did we choose, or did we choose? We all probably had a catalyst to be on the spiritual path. That's typically what happens, is like you think there's got to be more than this. And then you start investigating and realizing, yeah, there's a spiritual aspect to this humanism. There's more to life, and it's beyond that veil. The power of manifesting. If there's no free will, then we can't manifest as co-creators in this world. So if there's no free will, this path found us.
Isn't that karma though? I think
I don't know.
karmically, I feel like karmically we wherever we stopped in our last incarnation,
Right?
we somehow get back on that. So I don't think this is our first rodeo. I think
Right.
we've all at some point got to progress to a certain point or a certain limit in our last lives. And I think in this life, that's my feeling. In this life, there is a catalyst that kind of reminds you, hey, it's time to get back on the path where you stopped last time. That's how I feel that. And it's also like a certain amount, even the conditioning, right? Even your parents, everything is, it happens and is predetermined in order to shape the person that you are. And the catalyst happens the way it happens so that you do go on the path. It's so fine that you don't notice it and you think it's free will because the ego fools you into believing it's free will.
I'll maybe try to just give an example, or I was just thinking about this when you were talking, Aruna. In yoga philosophy, we do believe in energy centers. And I think one of the energy centers, they say it carries all our past karmic action. And according to that, so when we are born in this life, we come with like a package written on our back. This was what we designed for ourselves from the last or previous birth. And then we go through that. And they also say in yoga, like when you are born, it is determined, this is the number of times you're going to breathe.
Mhm.
So what I think is, like, coming back to Aruna's point, I was just thinking, if that, say I just breathe like 1,000,000 times, that's destined for me, right? When I'm born, I do yoga, or I go in meditation, I go in Kriya yoga path, or whatever you choose, bhakti yoga, surrendering to the higher self. Am I doing all that to breathe slowly, to get to my 1,000,000, not faster? So is the source giving me those experiences so that I go through that to hit my 1,000,000 breaths? So I live, say, till 70 or 80, whatever it is for me, right? That's what I think. I don't know, you were trying to say, like like the conditions, the way you are
Mhm.
conditioned after you are born, all those experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Like,
there is a birth, your birth is predestined and your death is predestined. Like, and certain things
Mhm.
within you feel I think we understand a lot of things are out of our control and we recognize that. And then a lot of things we feel that the illusion that we have control. And I don't think that we do have control, but there's that feeling. And I think it's important to have that feeling just to operate in this world.
If there is no free will, like talking about what you were saying before, that inaction, like if there's no free will, why am I bothering? Why do I bother getting out of bed every day? Why do I bother leaving the house? Like, why, if there's no, shouldn't, like, something's driving you. There's something driving you.
that's the life
And
force, right? Life force is
life
driving you to
force?
do,
Yeah, okay.
certain things. Yeah.
So let's ask ourselves this question. Is there one thing, just one thing in each of our lives that we can say that was truly, truly our choice and it came about through our own choice?
I don't think so. No, I think you make a point there. That's a good point. Because there's
There
a
was
lot in
a
my life I can't control.
there was one example I was listening to where they said there's a choice between eating an apple or a donut. And you
Right.
think it's free will and I'm going to choose one or the other. But there's so much conditioning behind that choice,
Yes.
something that you watch or your parents or friends or you're on a health kick or whatever. And then on the other side, there's cravings that maybe you're genetically predisposed to having certain cravings for sugar and you crave donuts. So you think I'm making a free choice of having the donut over the apple, but there's so much conditioning that has predetermined you to choose the donut over the apple.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's also the analogy of we're just one wave in the entire ocean. And does one wave move itself? No, we go with the flow, right? We're in the flow with all the other waves.
Yeah, Michael Jordan, I mean, he's predestined to be Michael Jordan, but he didn't sit around waiting for it to happen. And he
But
was
then,
predestined to have a
but
certain
then
height.
how can you say that he did not sit around and wait for it to happen? Life made it through him that he got up off his rear end, went and practiced his free shots,
Yeah.
or whatever it is that he practiced. So we are giving credit to Michael Jordan, saying he didn't sit around. But how can we say that? Was that his choice?
That was something within him that drove him.
Right. So, but it's the fictitious. We can't give credit to that fictitious character, Michael Jordan, or one of us, right? We can't give ourselves. And so that's why I asked the question: can we each come up with one example that we truly believe that we made a choice and we made it happen?
You can lie
Yeah.
to yourself and
Yeah.
say, I chose this relationship, or I chose this. You chose that relationship because it was karmically what was, available to you at that time, and you were conditioned a certain way to go forward in that relationship and that timing, right? You can say, oh, I chose, to go grocery shop. Like there's something, like you said, that even the thoughts, we are not the thinker of the thoughts. So if we're not the thinker of the thoughts, then how can any decision we make be our own?
Yeah.
And maybe at that point of time, you don't realize that, or you're mentally not in a state to even think about free will or talk about free will. Like Aruna was saying, like most of the commoners who go through day-to-day lives, they don't even have time to think or, beyond themselves or beyond the bread that they have to get for their families.
And I think that not thinking is what allows us to experience life.
Experience, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
If we are sitting here looking at life, experiencing life, at the same time pontifying about what's happening, which is what I do, I know there's a duality there. There's life happening, and I'm also quite aware of the observation of it. Right? But I think just being in life is what lets us experience life, but that doesn't mean we are controlling it in any way.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you, Vidya, for the question. It's a very complex topic. I think so many people have so many different opinions, and there is no real right answer. We won't really know, not while we're here in this incarnation, unless we progress to master yogi status. But yeah, thanks so much for the question. Thank you, ladies. It's been a great discussion. If you're watching our podcast and you enjoy what you're hearing and you want to contribute, please do use the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. What is your opinion? Do you think there is free will? Do you think it's free will and a combination of destiny, or do you feel everything is predetermined? Tell us what you think, and like and subscribe to our podcast. We'd love to hear from you. So with that, have a great day, everyone. Namaste.
Namaste.